Welcome to the Geek Easy. Sit back, grab a libation of your choice, and relax, 'cause it's time to do some geek stuff in the Geek Easy. Welcome to the Geek Easy, fellow geeks. Grab a beverage of your choice, because today we will be reviewing Criminal, the Deluxe hardback edition number 3, which completes this series. It is done by Image, written by Ed Brubaker, and illustrated by Sean Phillips. It contains an introduction, the Savage Sword of a Criminal, Deadly Hands of Criminal, My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies, The Nightcaller, Bad Weekend, Orphans, and Extras. This is a great series, but this book actually contains two of my favorite stories of the Criminal series, and I think pretty much either one of them, and only one of them is dealing with the central characters. The first one is the first one that's one of my favorites is what is that? Come on, let's get the table of contents. Is Deadly Hands of Criminal. Let me start off with this. 3 of these things actually deal with comics. The Deadly Sword of Criminal, or the Savage Swords of Criminal, that has Teague in his cell. They're reading he's reading a kind of a Savage Sword of Conan type of comic, and then he kind of gets out, and it switches back and forth between him reading the comic and what's going on in the story. There's kind of a parallel. It's always kind of neat. And then in the second one, the Deadly Hands of Criminal, this one actually takes place, they mention in the first book, where Teague, he's the father, used to take one of his sons on the road when they were doing crime stuff. And this one is where one of the sons is on the road with him. And he's reading The Deadly Hands. It's about a werewolf ninja. And so it's told from the child's perspective, where he's dealing, he's on the road with his dad, and his dad is always taken off. So he's, either doing crime stuff with his dad and driving for him at, 13, 14 years old, or, on a stakeout with him and all that. And he's reading these comics, but the main part is he meets this young girl who he hangs out with during this time. And he kind of becomes friends with her, despite his dad saying, you can't make friends, you can't do this stuff. So it's a kind of a secret relationship, sort of. And it revolves around the comic, too. And like the hero in the comic is in love with his friend's girlfriend, and then so he's He's having a kind of the child is with this girl, and it's a really kind of a nice little story. It's messed up on top of it too, just like all of Ed Brubaker's stuff is. And you get to see how kind of tragic his life was. And then the second book, the story that I liked, is Bad Weekend, which is, it's a story about a guy who was an artist for the comics. He did like freelance stuff, and he wasn't doing well. But there is he gets a call from a woman who was in charge of a big con. Take like San Diego Comic Con or something like that, like a bigger one. And she says, hey, I need you to keep an eye on this really famous artist. Think like a Jack Kirby type. In more ways than one, because he's one of the founding fathers of this that he used to do the older stuff like the Savage. I think he actually worked on the Savage Sword comics that they have in the first one, and went into superheroes and stuff. So people credit him for being like one of these great artists, but he was never paid. He never got proper credit, so he's broke. He had he's a drunk. And I'm not implying that like Kirby or any of these guys were, but this is the type of character he is. And he, now he's at the cons, he's selling counterfeit pieces of art, of his own art, passing his originals, and he doesn't show up for panels. So the younger guy has to kind of keep him in line and get him to where he's going, because he used to be an assistant to him, one of the many assistants who he worked for and who worked for him and were treated badly. And I don't want to give away the twist in the story that always happens with this stuff, but it was really good because it's deals with comics and sort of like the behind the scenes type of stuff. So it looks like you might be getting a little bit of an inside radio type of thing, because I'm sure Brubaker knows about some of these things or had to go through some of this stuff as a kid, and he's just so you're seeing this stuff, and they throw down a bunch of names like they showed Ditko and Kirby, and they even mentioned Stan Lee in a couple of things, and they have things like where people will show up and have them get merchandising from the animated shows that they helped create, have them sign stuff, and these guys would never got any residuals for that type of stuff. So really great story, and I really enjoyed the hell out of this. And as much as I like, and I'm really kind of bummed that this is the final book, that this finishes this series. I'd like it to go on more, but it's not. But this is the perfect ending to this series because it's... Oh, and then, My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies. That was a really good story, too. It's about a character... there's a younger girl who's in one of the earlier stories who's now grown up. And she's in rehab. And it deals a lot with music. Like some of the... whether or not, all these junkies, people who did drugs with music and all that were better when they did it or not and stuff. Really kind of an interesting debate on there, which I've had with my aunt. But yeah, I mean, it's just such a really great read. And so yeah, I'm going to give this a 4.75 out of 5 and just say you need to get this book, especially if you're a completist and you have the other two. Or even if you're not, get 1, 2, and 3. It's a great series, and you'll enjoy the hell out of it. So, let me know in the comments below whether you've read this or not, what you thought of it, and like, subscribe, and most of all, enjoy your comments.